Taylor Swift fan sues Delta Airlines after being sexually assaulted by mechanic on flight. There is a lawsuit being filed against Delta Airlines by a lady who was sexually attacked on a flight in the previous year. According to a news statement issued by Mark Lindquist Law, an aviation and personal injury firm that is representing the victim, the event took place as the woman was traveling from Phoenix to Seattle on her way back after attending a Taylor Swift performance. Taylor Allison Swift, who was born December 13, 1989, is an American singer-songwriter. A subject of widespread public interest, she has influenced the music industry and popular culture through her artistry, songwriting, and entrepreneurship. She is an advocate of artists' rights and women's empowerment. In King County, Washington, the case was filed against Delta and the perpetrator, who was a Delta technician at the time of the incident, according to Newsweek. The lawsuit was filed against both parties. According to the United States Attorney's Office for the Western District of Washington, Duane Brick, who's 53 years old, entered a guilty plea to the charge of abusive sexual contact in March. He said that he had taken the victim's hand and placed it on his crotch throughout the trip. According to the statement released by the attorney's office, he also grabbed under her shirt and groped her breast on the occasion that she appeared to be sleeping. Rick could now face a prison sentence of up to 2 years. The case that has been filed claims that as a common carrier, Delta owes the highest duty of care and has a legal duty to provide airline passengers, including the plaintiff, with a safe flight that is free from unauthorized and abusive sexual contact from other passengers, including from Delta's employees. The airline alleges that the flight attendants overserved alcohol to Mr. Brick, failed to adequately train employees on how to prevent and address sexual assaults, and failed to properly monitor the cabin and protect passengers. Although the victim and a witness reported the incident to the staff, Brick was permitted to remain seated for a further 15 minutes, according to the information provided. Lindquist, the attorney for the victim, stated that everyone should have the confidence that they are safe enough to fall asleep on a plane without the possibility of being groped or sexually abused. Airlines can and should do more to stop these gross violations, he stated in addition. Business Insider has attempted to contact Delta to obtain a comment. Another complaint has been filed against Delta by the family of a child who was sexually molested on a flight for the same reason. The girl is 13 years old. According to the allegations made in the lawsuit, Delta employees enabled the attack by permitting the visibly intoxicated defendant, Brian Patrick Durning, to board the flight and giving him beer throughout the whole journey. A representative from Delta stated that the business would not comment on any litigation that was currently underway, but that they had zero tolerance for unlawful behavior on flights and in airports. Violence against women on airplanes is on the rise in the United States. Tessa Gorman, the United States Attorney for the Western District of Washington, stated that the Western District of Washington continues to see an alarming increase in sexual abuse cases aboard aircraft. We made it clear in August of last year that we have no tolerance for assaults of this nature. Regrettably, we are still receiving fresh complaints, and we are now conducting investigations and filing charges in those cases, she continued. The United States Attorney's Office for the Western District of Washington brought attention to 2 other events that occurred in March within its jurisdiction. According to the report, an Indian citizen who is 38 years old was arraigned on a charge of abusive sexual contact for an incident that occurred with a teenager who was sitting near him on an Emirates aircraft to Seattle. During this time, Jack Robertson, who was 69 years old at the time, entered a guilty plea to the charge of simple assault for his interaction with a 15-year-old passenger who was sitting next to him on a trip from Atlanta to Seattle in July of 2023. The United States Attorney's Office stated on March 8 that Robertson could be punished to a maximum of 1 year in prison when he is sentenced on June 5, 2024. There has been a disturbing increase in the number of sexual assaults that have occurred on aircraft, as reported by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, in the previous year. The number of instances that were being investigated increased to 62 in the first half of 2023, which is an increase from 27 in the entire year of 2018. The woman who had attended a Taylor Swift performance in Phoenix, Arizona, and was flying back to Seattle, Washington, was allegedly assaulted on board, as reported in a news release from Mark Lindquist Law, a firm that represents her. This would bring us back to the case that we are discussing today. The now former Delta employee Duane Brick, who is 53 years old, has entered a guilty plea to the charge of abusive sexual contact. He has admitted to harassing a sleeping woman who was seated next to him on a trip in 2023. In addition to being accused of assault and battery, the victim has also accused Delta and Mr. Brick of gross negligence. Under the terms of the case, it was stated that as a common carrier, Delta owes the highest duty of care and has a legal duty to provide airline passengers, including the plaintiff, with a safe flight that is free from unauthorized and abusive sexual contact from other passengers, including from Delta's employees. Specifically, they claimed that the airlines had overserved Mr. Brick with alcohol, failed to adequately train employees on how to prevent and address sexual assaults, and failed to properly monitor the cabin and protect passengers. According to the attorney, everyone should feel safe enough to fall asleep on a plane without the risk of being groped and sexually assaulted, and this should be universally the case. There is more that airlines can and should do to put an end to these serious infractions. Within the past year, the Western District of Washington's Attorney's Office has received reports of dozens of instances of sexual abuse that occurred on board planes. This particular attack is just one of those examples. For his contact with a 15-year-old passenger who was sat next to him on a trip from Atlanta to Seattle in July 2023, Jack Robertson, who was 69 years old at the time, entered a plea of guilty to the charge of simple assault. Robertson allegedly placed his hand on the teen's thigh and then slowly pushed it up her thigh and under her skirt until it reached her inner thigh, as stated in the records belonging to the case. As soon as the airplane landed, the defendant was brought into custody, and the victim immediately reported the incident to her guardian. When Robertson is sentenced on June 5, 2024 by United States District Judge Lauren King, he might be punished to a maximum of 1 year in prison. Similarly, Abhinav Kumar, who is 38 years old, was brought before the court to face charges of abusive sexual contact for assaulting a teenager who was sitting next to him on an Emirates trip to Seattle. There will be a trial on May 6th, and he has entered a plea of not guilty. According to the United States Attorney for the Western District of Washington, Tessa M. Gorman, the Western District of Washington continues to see an alarming increase in sexual abuse cases aboard aircraft. We made it clear in August of last year that we have no tolerance for assaults of this nature. Regrettably, we are still receiving additional complaints, and we are currently conducting investigations and filing charges in those cases. Delta will decline to comment on pending litigation, stated a spokeswoman for Delta, which is a representative of Delta Airlines, in a statement that was provided to Newsweek. Delta has a zero-tolerance policy for unethical behavior and is committed to collaborating with law enforcement agencies to achieve this goal. Delta has a legal obligation to offer airline passengers, including the plaintiff, a safe flight that is free from unlawful and abusive sexual contact from other passengers, including from Delta's personnel, according to the lawsuit. As a common carrier, Delta owes the highest duty of care and has a legal duty to provide such a flight, the lawsuit further claims. Thanks for watching. Kindly like and subscribe for more videos. In the comments section of the post, please tell me how many you discovered.